Welcome to this short workshop on driving to and for work as a key worker. This short course has been designed to help key workers drive safely when driving to and from work and also driving for work. It's been designed specifically for the context of the COVID-19 outbreak. It will cover safe driver training protocols during COVID-19, novice drivers, driving in the UK, occupational driving risks, driving at night, lone working, and staying safe. Whether you're fairly new to driving at all, new to driving occupationally, or you're an experienced driver, the information contained in this workshop is designed to help keep you safe. One of the big questions we get asked is, should we be delivering any driver training at all at this time? As driver training makes it difficult to maintain social distancing guidelines, in general, driver trainers are discouraged from taking out their normal pupils onto the roads at this time. However, we need to ensure that key workers who need to drive for their role have adequate and professional training to make sure that they are safe and competent drivers, particularly in a fairly stressful driving context. For that reason, some in-vehicle training is taking place. There may be a variety of reasons for driver training at this time, which could include new licence acquisition, a Category B licence to drive cars for the first time or drive a two-wheeled powered vehicle, or gaining a licence in another category to drive another type of vehicle. Or it could be about developing your ability to drive as an occupational driver and to an advanced standard. Not all training currently, however, is about acquiring a new licence in a new category. Training may be required to enable key workers to drive a different vehicle but on the same licence category. A good example of this is the number of new delivery drivers that are being recruited to deliver online groceries. As a key worker, you should not be undertaking driver training at this time unless you have an essential need for that training. You may be asked to provide a form of validation that you are a critical worker for either a test that you wish to book with the DVSA or your trainer may require that as well. Forms of validation could include a critical worker practical test confirmed with DVSA, a letter from your employer confirming you're a key worker needing to drive for work, or a form of recognised ID, i.e. NHS Staff Identification Badge. You should provide evidence to your trainer in one of the forms above that you are a key worker, so they feel comfortable about undertaking training with you. Documentation can be sent to them as photos, uploaded or scanned. If you're seeking a critical worker test, there are a couple of things you should know. There are many key or critical workers doing an amazing job at this time, helping to keep our country safe and running as normal as possible, but not all of these workers will be granted a critical worker test from the DVSA. A triage system is currently in place to assess which key workers need tests most urgently, and tests will be allocated on that basis. As test slots, examiner availability and test centre availability are now severely limited, always check where the test has been booked if you're successful in gaining one. Don't assume it'll be at the traditional times or locations. If you want to book a critical worker test with DVSA, you need to ensure that you follow this link, and that will have all the details about the tests available and how to book them. It's difficult to mitigate the risk of COVID-19 in every area of working life that we still need to deliver at this moment in time, and it's quite difficult in a car. The social distancing rule cannot be truly observed, and so drivers and their trainers must work harder to limit the ability for the virus to be spread in this environment. That's why your instructor has already received additional training in managing the risks of training in this environment and what safe training protocols are. For all of us in all walks of life at the moment, cleanliness is key, and you should use all available equipment and every method to keep your hands and the rest of you clean at all times. Wash your hands thoroughly just before getting into the car and straight afterwards. This is good practice for when you are driving as much as for any driving lessons. Use a high alcohol hand sanitizer or antibacterial wipes if you cannot wash your hands with soap and water. You may be asked to supply and wear clean disposable gloves, or your instructor may offer them to you. Put them on just after you're cleaning your hands and dispose of them responsibly after the session. Do not touch your face, as this can help the virus to spread. If you do need to touch it, wash your hands before and after to minimise the risk. Have clean tissue to hand when you're driving and especially when you're training in case you need to cough or sneeze. If you do sneeze during a session or cough, your instructor will get you to pull over as soon as you safely can, so you can get rid of the tissue in a disposable bag, sanitise your hands, and they may need to also sanitise the equipment in the vehicle again. Your instructor will be keeping the windows open at all times during training to ensure there's adequate ventilation, but you can put the heater on too for everyone's comfort. Do bring a coat or jumper in case it gets chilly in your sessions, as being cold could be a distraction to your driving. You have a responsibility to ensure, as far as you practically can, your health and safety is in tip-top condition and everyone else around you before you embark on any driver training or carry any passengers in your vehicle at this time. If you think you have or may have any of the symptoms of coronavirus, you should inform anybody who may be driving with you and certainly your trainer before any sessions. Check with this link if you're unsure of the symptoms. If you're in the risk sector, as you have a health condition that could be made worse by COVID-19, or you're living at someone who is at risk or has the symptoms, you need to discuss that first with your driving instructor and check the NHS advice on self-isolation. As we said, your instructor has already had training in safe training protocols during this period. So therefore, they will be undertaking a number of checks before they even embark on lessons with you. For example, your instructor will call you before each lesson to ensure, as far as you can be sure, that you're both okay to continue training today, that you haven't got, for example, a high temperature or fever or a continuous cough. They will greet you in a friendly way at the start of the physical lesson, but will not shake hands with you or make any physical contact whatsoever. Your instructor will want to see your physical driving licence. This is normal training protocols when starting with a new pupil, and will ask you to hold it up so they can see it. They won't touch your licence, so don't offer it to them. Your instructor will sign any paperwork on your behalf to save the risk of you handling any materials between you. This will be done with your knowledge and consent. In the event the instructor needs to take control of the car in training by adjusting the steering wheel, for example, they will do so. They will then ask you to pull up at the side of the road as soon as safely possible to discuss what happened and why they needed to intervene, but also so they can clean their hands and also the equipment or any controls that they have touched. The instructor will ensure the car is thoroughly clean before you get in and after each lesson before any other pupil gets into the car. This will include all the controls and all internal and external contact points. Please wear suitable clothing, as your instructor will, that fully covers your arms and legs. If you become unwell or start to cough continuously, the session may be stopped, as it may be if you turn up for your lesson and you are displaying symptoms. This is to protect you, your instructor, and the wider public at large. All lessons at this time will be unaccompanied. This means you cannot bring a friend or relative with you. When the instructor sanitises the car, this includes all points of contact, such as door handles and window controls and door mirror controls, seat adjustment controls, seat belt, buckle and clasp, etc. Steering wheel adjuster, indicator, wiper stalks and horn, gear levers, parking brakes and internal mirrors, any bonnet or boot catches, and other controls such as sat-nav, ventilation and window demisters. To help minimise your risk, both in lessons and when you're driving generally, keep your own car as clean as possible and clean all of the controls in line with the advice on the previous slide. To keep you safe on the road, it's also important to run through a vehicle checklist to make sure your vehicle is legal. Is your vehicle suitably taxed? Is your vehicle suitably insured for the purpose of commuting or being used for work purposes? Many of you may be now using your own vehicle for work purposes, but are still having a social and domestic use policy. You do need to ring your insurer and ensure that you are okay to drive your car for a work purpose, and it may require a change in policy. If you do not do so, it may result in a penalty or fine. Does your car have a current MOT? You can check the MOT rules because they have changed since March 2020. Click the link below for up-to-date rules on MOT. One mnemonic that instructors use to ensure the safe preparation of a vehicle for driving is Floudry. Your instructor can elaborate on this with you in training sessions if you want to. But briefly, Floudry means fuel. Do you have enough fuel for your journey? You should check this on any normal journey, in any normal circumstances, but particularly during the crisis. You don't want to break down just because you've got no petrol in your car. Fill your tank as much as you can to reduce the amount of trips to the fuel station and therefore reduce your amount of exposure to risk. Use protective gloves when using the pump and pay at the pump where you can. Use gloves to use the keypad on e-payment terminals and dispose of those gloves straight afterwards. Lights. Are all your lights working properly, including brake lights and rear number plate lights? Can you be seen clearly at night or in murky conditions? Oil and fluids. Check engine oil, brake fluid and power steering fluid are at the correct levels. Water. Does the windscreen wash reservoir have enough screen wash? Do the jets work? And have you got coolant? Damage. Do a visual check round the vehicle to check for any new damage. Electrics. Check to see if any dashboard lights are flashing or are staying on. Check heaters, demisters, windows and horn. Rubber. Check the tyres are in good condition and inflated properly and your wiper blades are in good condition. Again, you can talk to your trainer about the kind of checks that you need to do and how you manage any issues you see. Or you could call into local car maintenance branches who are still open to help motorists with their cars and vehicles at this time. Avoiding breakdowns and the need for people to come out to you on the road, including personnel on the Highways England network or any other road system, is our key driver behind giving you this advice. You also need to check the most important component of driving, you, the driver. You, how are you feeling? Are you okay to drive? Occupational driving carries increased risk. Increasing the amount of driving to, from and for work puts you in that risky category of driver, so you need to be aware of the specific risks and how to manage them. Key risks in commuter driving and driving for work include an increased risk to driving when tired. Tiredness and fatigue is a massive factor in road traffic collisions in the UK. So try and have at least a 20-minute break before driving and have a caffeinated or energy drink to perk you up. If you're driving a lot, driving on shifts or making multiple deliveries, take your allotted breaks on the road to unwind a little and have a walk around in the fresh air if you can. Driving when feeling stressed can be a big distraction and again is a massive factor in road traffic collisions. So take the time to clear your head a bit and relax a little before driving each time. As a key worker, you may be driving at unsociable hours, such as after dark and in the early hours of the morning. These carry an increased risk to driving as well, so ensure you've had adequate rest, had a caffeinated drink at least 20 minutes before you drive, have a good supply of fresh air in the car, and never push yourself to continue driving if you're tired. Stop and rest. If you truly are that fatigued before you even put the keys in the ignition, you should think about whether you should drive at all that day. Causing an accident at this moment in time through stress or fatigue or distraction puts enormous pressure on frontline services. Be self-aware. Do you remember your journey and your route when you've driven? Have you caught yourself staring and zoning out whilst you've been driving? This can be a sign of fatigue, so pull over when safe and legal to do so and have a break. Trainers and pupils should be aware that not only is there on-road risk increase when driving work, your risk may also increase at this time as you may be driving under extreme pressure and stress because of your working circumstances. New drivers are another risky category. So if you're fairly new to driving or learning to driving at this time, you should be aware of your risk. You may feel a little anxious driving on your own for the first time after gaining a licence, whether that's a new licence, becoming a new driver, or a new licence in a new category, driving a different type of vehicle in a different type of context. This is normal, as being a driver or rider is a big responsibility, but rest assured, if you've passed and been trained by a professional trainer, you will have been trained to a safe and competent standard. Apply what your instructors taught you and consider taking refresher lessons if you still feel uncomfortable. You can always call your trainer anytime for more advice. There is a blueprint for how we drive in the UK. The National Standard for Driving Cars and Light Vans is a useful document to have a look at to see how you should be delivering in your driving. Driving your car or riding your bike may be safer for you than using public transport during this time, and it's important you feel comfortable and prepared in your driving. To help you feel more in control, get to know the car that you're going to be driving. It may be the vehicle is totally new to you, or it's a family car that you haven't been driving as much personally, but now suddenly you're using it for work a lot. So take the time to get to know the vehicle. Plan your route or know where you're going and how to get there, especially if you may have to take diversions. Use a map to help you plan that route or sat-nav. Memorise road signs, landmarks, and ways to actually tackle your journey. You may have always been a passenger before and relied on the driver. Now you're in the driving seat, you don't want to be distracted by becoming lost. And ensure you carry out those daily floundering checks to minimise the risk of breakdowns and accidents. Distraction, as we said before, is one of the biggest factors in road traffic collisions in the UK. Distractions can apply to any driver no matter how experienced they are. Distractions are all around us all the time, so we need to be aware of what they are and the fact that they can be individual to each of us and consider how we can best manage them when driving. Give thought to, where am I going? Am I likely to be distracted by becoming lost very easily because I haven't planned my route adequately, or I don't know how to take a diversion if my normal route is closed? You may very naturally be thinking of family and friends at this difficult time. Try and clear your head of these stressful distractions when you're driving. You might be thinking about work, so get yourself in the zone of being able to concentrate fully on your driving. Don't let technology become a distraction. Phone calls, messages, music, sat-nav, they can all switch us off from the road and switch us on to things that are not quite as important. Put your phone in your glove box if possible. Mute any messages, and messages particularly coming to your heads-up display as well. Have music on if you think it will help you focus by helping you with fatigue, but not if it's a distraction. Emotions can also come into play when driving and be a massive distraction at this time as well. Make sure that you're in the right emotional zone to tackle the important and safety critical task of driving. You are only human after all. Give yourself a break and a break from driving if you feel that you cannot manage any of these factors and they're becoming too much of a distraction. You might be new to driving in the UK at all at this time and have been asked to drive more for work. Make sure you're up to speed on driving at the UK. Refresh your memory on the differences in driving in the UK and ensure you always drive on the left. Recognise that speed is measured now in miles per hour, not kilometres per hour. Know what road signs means by refreshing your knowledge of the highway code and speaking to your driver trainer about them. Roundabouts rotate clockwise. Gear changes with the left hand. Familiar yourself with the car's controls before starting your drive. Windscreen wiper sweep, for example, may be different and could disorientate it, as could other features in the car you're not used to. New drivers and riders to the UK should obtain a copy of the Highway Code and Know Your Traffic Signs, another publication provided by the Government Publications Office, so you become more familiar with what everything means on the road. Speak to your driver trainer for advice, guidance and training. In-car training might not be possible unless you have an essential need during this time, but if you do have that essential need and you do think it's helpful to have some familiarisation training as part of this, please do speak to your trainer. Before even starting your journey, go through these checks again. Do your flowery checks. Do your human being checks. Make sure you're feeling alert and safe to drive. If you're on medication, check you can drive by reading the leaflet that accompanies medication or ask a pharmacist or medical professional about the impacts of that specific medication on driving. Keep safe distance regulations with passengers as far as you can. If you have to take passengers with you, stick to all the safe protocols for driving we discussed earlier for being in the car. And stick to no more than one person in a vehicle where possible, and maybe one person per row is the best, rather than having passengers alongside you. Plan for your journey, but be adaptable and know that you may have to adapt by using road signs, maps, local knowledge and tools such as SatNav and Google Street View to help you visualise where you're going beforehand. Be aware road layouts and signs do change, so always go by the signs and road markings you're encountering at the time. Be flexible with your route in case you need to go in a different way. Always consider the road and weather conditions. During spring in particular, weather can change dramatically with heavy rain, wind, sleet and snow to bright sun occurring. The roads can be slippery, so drive at a speed appropriate to the conditions, not necessarily the speed limit itself. With fewer vehicles on the road, some drivers feel it is acceptable to drive at higher speeds, which is illegal and unsafe. It is not acceptable. When passing and negotiating junctions, be extra vigilant because there may be drivers speeding and not being as observant by you. So scan with your eyes and ears, reduce your speed where necessary to give you a better view, approach the junction more slowly, and give time for others to see you. Consider using your horn or flashing your lights to warn of your presence in particularly dark areas such as rural roads. Your vehicle must use social distances too. Always think about tyres and tarmac, and if in doubt, talk to your instructor about this term when in a queue of traffic, as this gives you an escape route if you need to move away and out of danger. It reduces the intake of fumes from the vehicle in front and helps reduce the risk to you and your vehicle from a rear-end collision if the vehicle behind doesn't stop. For your safety, your personal safety, have a charged-up phone with you and a charger too. Let a friend and family know when you've got to work and are about to leave home by using a tracking app such as Find My Friends or Live 360. If you're going to be doing home visits or deliveries in rural areas or areas you feel are unsafe to drive in, follow those safeguarding guidelines as well. Driving at night is another key area of driving risk for all drivers. Your vehicle should be clearly visible. Lighting up time is 30 minutes after sunset to 30 minutes before sunrise. Check all lights and reflectors are working and clean. Ensure your number plates are clean and lights are working on that rear number plate. Lights must not be set to dazzle. To ensure the main or full beam light is not illuminated on your dashboard, usually a blue light. Check any load you are carrying are secure, evenly distributed, and check the manufacturer's advice on tyre pressures. There's lots of information online about tyre pressure and how to maintain it. Keep windscreens and mirrors clean inside and out and condensation free. Due to a build-up of road film through the vents, the insides of windows should be cleaned frequently. Set the air ventilation controls and open a window before you set off so there's enough fresh air circulating in your car. When driving at night, consider that you should be wearing any glasses or contacts if you've been prescribed them by an optometrist. If dazzled by oncoming traffic, slow down or come to a safe stop. Do not close your eyes. Avert your gaze to the carriageway edge marking if you can't stop at all, and keep your doors locked if you have to stop when driving at night. Keep yourself safe, personally safe as well as on-road safe. Think of your own security and peace of mind. If you're embarking on a journey late at night in particular, make sure someone has your phone number and you can contact them. Tell them where you're going and roughly what route you're taking. Tell them when you arrive and when you're about to leave. Tell them when you get to the next site or home. Use tracking apps so others can see you and ensure your device is charged. Make sure you have warm clothes in case of a breakdown and a number for recovery. If you're awaiting recovery, keep your doors locked and speak to people through a small gap via an open window if approached. The genuine recovery services will have your details, keep you informed and carry ID, so check all of those things first. Tell them if you're female and travelling alone when reporting the breakdown, so they'll prioritise you. If you've broken down the motorway or fast-moving dual carriageway, get out of your vehicle where possible. But return to it if you have to on the passenger side only, putting your seatbelt on and locking the doors if you feel you're in danger. If the danger passes, leave the vehicle again because the road-based danger is probably greater. Ensure you carry high-vis reflective bibs or jackets, water and a snack and any medication you need. Staying safe when driving for work. It's important to wear appropriate protective equipment to suit the environment that you're working in, and as a key worker, your employer has probably advised you on the appropriate equipment for you. You must observe all health and safety rules for the site or company you work for. Ensure you're aware of any differentiation in signing in and signing out procedures as this has changed, and only carry out the duties you're competent and trained to do. Personal protective equipment must not be worn, however, when driving if it prevents proper control of the vehicle or impedes the vision of the driver. Thank you for your attention to that important training. We're now going to ask you to complete a short test based on this lesson. You will need to score 16 out of 20 to pass the test. It's not obligatory, but it's useful for you to test that you're learning from this session and make sure that those key points of information are embedded to help you be a safer driver out there on the roads. Thanks for your patience. Keep well out there. Drive safe. Stay safe.